Paris, thank you. World leaders, though notably not China's President Xi Jinping or Russia's Vladimir Putin, are currently meeting in Scotland to discuss how to avert a global climate catastrophe. The meeting is being billed as humanity's last chance to tackle climate change before it's too late. Here's a little of what President Biden had to say earlier today.
We're standing at an inflection point in world history. We have the ability to invest in ourselves and build an equitable, clean energy future, and in the process, create millions of good-paying jobs and opportunities around the world.
Now, joining us now are three people directly involved in an effort to invest in a more sustainable future. John Palfrey, president of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. The $8.2 billion foundation announced in September it is shifting its investments away from fossil fuels. Steph Tai, professor of law at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Tai was previously an appellate attorney in the Environmental and Natural Resources Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. And Catherine Wyatt, chief investment officer at Loyola University Chicago, which earlier this month announced its decision to divest from fossil fuel investments. Welcome all of you to Chicago tonight. So John Palfrey, let's start with you, please. We know the MacArthur Foundation announced it was divesting from fossil fuels in September. How did you all arrive at this decision?
Thanks, Brandis. Well, I certainly agree with the president that we are on the precipice here relative to climate change, and we need to build a more equitable and inclusive future. And the way to do that, I think, is to use all of the resources at our disposal. And so for many years, MacArthur has made its largest area of grant making climate change and climate equity. And we realized that we could do more by divesting our endowment funds, as well as investing endowment funds in other forms of clean energy. So it's really a divest, invest type strategy.
And Catherine Wyatt, you know, it's one thing, obviously, for an institution to make this decision to divest, but you, as the chief investment officer at Loyola, you're responsible for actually implementing that decision. How do you go about scrutinizing investments to identify fossil fuel connections?
Sure. Well, you know, there are a lot of structural considerations when you break down the portfolio investments. So we use different kinds of vehicles to access investment strategies, and there are varying degrees of control that we have. There are a lot of things that we can control and some that we can't. So I'd break it down into three major categories. We have direct investments in liquid and marketable securities or funds, which we can sell. We have direct investments in illiquid and private funds, which we are in the process of winding down. And, you know, most importantly, we're not making further commitments. And then the third is that we have some residual and indirect exposure through commingled funds, for example, index funds or other actively managed funds. So we plan to monitor the materiality of these exposures and prudently evaluate on a case-by-case basis. And this is where our positive lens of environmental, social, and governance framework comes in. So we plan to measure the ESG characteristics of the portfolio and proactively engage with our active managers on ESG issues. And, you know, we tend to invest with managers where fossil fuel exposure is not a major part of their investment strategy anyway.
Okay, and Steph Tai, you're supporting an effort to get the University of Wisconsin Foundation to disclose how much of its $3.5 billion endowment is invested in fossil fuel companies and to develop alternatives. How transparent are the investments at the UW Foundation endowment?
It's not particularly transparent, which is why we are trying to work on this effort, both from the faculty side, the staff side, and the student side. All of us have passed resolutions suggesting both divestment and also just future transparency. And that has not yet followed, but we are still working on this in terms of having future conversations with our Wisconsin Alumni Foundation.
And how has the leadership at both the university and the University Foundation been responding to your efforts?
So the leadership at the Wisconsin system has been great, well, at least Wisconsin-Madison, although we have had a change in leadership with our chancellor leaving. So we're in a chancellor search right now. So we don't know what will happen in the future. With the Wisconsin Alumni Foundation, there's been mixed kind of approaches. And so that's a lot of the effort that's going on, is to sort of try to negotiate with the Wisconsin Alumni Foundation, which is accepting of the actual facts of climate change, but not entirely recognizing some of the risks involved in fossil fuel investments.
So last week, the CEOs of several major oil companies testified in a congressional hearing. The companies were accused of deliberately lying to the public on what they knew about how fossil fuels were contributing to global warming. Here's a little of what ExxonMobil CEO DARREN had to say in response.
ExxonMobil has been engaged in policy discussions related to the energy and environment for years. Our views on policies and its implications have been guided by our understanding of the science.
And Steph Ty, sticking with you for a minute, you're a legal expert, of course, well versed in environmental law. What are the chances that big oil companies and energy companies could be held culpable if they're proven to have lied about what they knew and when they knew it?
So I'm going to break this down into two different parts. So in general, in terms of fossil fuel companies being held culpable for fossil fuel emissions, it's happening much more in Europe than in the United States. That's where a lot of the financial risk in terms of investment into fossil fuel companies that are global come from, is like sort of liabilities in the EU mostly. But with respect to the United States, in terms of specific allegations of fraud, that's open, right? A lot of the congressional inquiries are really honing in on specific instances of fraud, and we'll have to see where that goes.
Okay, John Palfrey, back to you. What do you do if you have a conglomerate or a utility that might have both green energy as well as fossil fuel assets? Do you divest or do you stay?
It's a great question, Brandon. And one thing with MacArthur, as with many large endowments, we don't invest directly in companies. We invest through funds of various kinds. And so what we've done is to say, when we're looking at these broad indices, like what Catherine said, we are buying an index that is pulling out of it companies that we consider to be fossil fuel companies, particularly holding fossil fuel reserves. We're also saying to all of the fund managers, we do not wish to be in these companies. And we are, to the extent that we hold a small number of direct investments in funds that have oil and gas exploration, those we're selling over time. So I would say in general, now is the time to err on the side of divestment in dirty energy and to invest in clean energy solutions and to focus equity exposure in those areas, as well as to think about equity for the society as a whole. So in general, err on the side of aiming for a much cleaner economy.
And Catherine Wyatt, how long do you anticipate this process of divestment could take?
Well, it could. I mean, there are steps that we have already taken in terms of the liquid investments. There's a fund that we have already exited that had a direct exposure to fossil fuels. And frankly, that was one of the primary objectives of the fund in our inflation hedging bucket. So we have exited that investment. For the other marketable securities that we could readily sell, we are committed to doing it in an expedient manner, but something that is also financially prudent. So we're actively engaged, working with the portfolio manager on kind of establishing a reasonable time frame to exit these investments. And then lastly, on the private side, these are long life partnerships that are winding down. It could take 5 to 10 years. However, with no new commitments, the exposure will quickly become immaterial.
And John Palfrey, back to you. How easy is it to identify alternative, environmentally friendly, or at least neutral investments?
So many opportunities, Brandon. This is a great moment, I think, for the plus side of this equation, the invest side, and we think of that as impact investments, where you're looking at the positive impact on society first and return second, as well as ones that really are return first. So I think there are many, many, many opportunities. If you are not finding opportunities, you are not looking hard enough, or putting up the flag and saying you're open to that. So I think there are plenty of opportunities for us to do this across our portfolio and in all the ways that we spend our money across a foundation or a university, such as procurement.
Okay, that's a good place to leave it. My thanks to John Palfrey, Catherine Wyatt, and Steph Ty for joining us to talk about this.